Here's Ben cutting free in front of Becky. He scores! Full count pitch from Ramirez. This one is swung on and lifted to deep left center field. Jones is chasing and that is gone.
Seven to 74, and how about Edwards' nifty Euro step to the European?
Stopped in the backfield, breaks away, wiggles around Brandon Graham.
Luka! How did he do it? How did he do it? That is Luka magic!
¿Qué pasó, mi gente? It's MarkTep25 otra vez. It's been a while since I've done one of these type of videos, kind of my rants. But yeah, the NBA season started yesterday, and I kind of wanted to just get some notes off, but it's mainly for the Mavericks. Maybe at some point I'll do some other teams, but for right now, I'm just focused on my team, the Mavs. Yesterday, it was kind of disappointing, to say the least. Overall, just not a good showing by this team. And I know that they can be way better than this. Luka, we'll start with him because, you know, he's the star. And everybody was having these high expectations of him possibly becoming MVP this season. And again, it is the first game, so we can't really fault him too harshly. But I will say there are things that are very concerning. What I will say is his, you know, the biggest bear in the room is his fucking shooting. His three-point shooting is just abysmal. Going 0 for 6 from the three-point line is not a good look, especially in today's NBA where you have to be a very good shooter. I mean, and granted, he's done well thus far throughout his past couple of years. But this is supposed to be the year where he takes that big step in the right direction, where he has to prove that he is an MVP caliber player. And a lot of people are already putting him at that level. So tonight was just, or yesterday night I should say, because I'm recording this the day after. His overall play just wasn't that good. He got better in the second half, but it was a case of too little too late. He was forcing too many threes. Overall, his passing, he just wasn't moving the ball as much, as you can see with him only having 5 assists. He's usually more capable of getting you some assists. But he just was not passing the ball. And granted, yeah, part of it you can say is because some of his teammates weren't shooting well either. But at the same time, you have to be able to have your team help you. You have to trust in your teammates. Josh Richardson was pretty good. Tim Hardaway Jr., throughout last season, he got a lot better, but he, again, is still very streaky himself when it comes to three-point range. But let me continue with Luka before I get to those other players. Yeah, he just seemed sloppy, and then offensively, he was even missing some layups that should have been pretty simple, and he was getting just overly frustrated. And yeah, it is frustrating to miss shots. I mean, I would be frustrated too. But the thing is, the way Luka goes about it just seems very, for lack of a better term, immature. And I get it. He's young. He's a young player who has a lot to grow. But at the same time, this is a player who has played professionally since he was 14. So at this point, he should be a little bit better in how he carries himself when he makes mistakes like this. I mean, again, there's still an immaturity thing, but even then, you can't really chalk it up to that entirely because he still has played professionally since he was young. So I don't know. But at that point, he needs to calm down. He needs to not complain so much. And he also needs to get back on defense. Like, he just missed the shot and then he just gave up and didn't play defense. That cannot happen. That's not MVP caliber basketball. He cannot be doing that. And hopefully that changes. And I'm sure it will. I have a lot of faith in Luka. And I'm being critical now because I know he can be better than this. I know for a fact because I've seen it. We've all seen it. And we all should expect him to be better. And we should all hold him to a high enough standard because this is now his 3rd year. The gloves are off at this point. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical, but I don't know. I care a lot about this team, and I care a lot about Luka, and I hope he does well. As far as the other players like Josh Richardson, he also kind of started a little shaky. Like he looked like he had a weird hitch to his 3-pointer a couple of times, but then I think he kind of got it going a little later. Tim Hardaway Jr., he was making some like decent plays, like at least getting to the basket and drawing fouls, but he was missing free throws. Like what the fuck? I don't remember Tim Hardaway missing free throws like that. So that was just again that did not look good on his part. And then again, just gotta be more consistent overall. And I'm certain he'll be okay too. But Josh Richardson, I mean, I vaguely saw him when he played for the Sixers. He seems like a very good piece, and he can only improve from there. James Johnson, he did okay. I mean, he was doing what he needed to do defensively, so that's all you can ask. But at the same time, like his offensive play was a little bit shabby. So maybe hopefully he gets some better looks and is a little bit more consistent on that end. I don't think we saw Tyrell Terry, did we? No, I don't believe he played this game. But one of the other rookies did, and he got a bucket. So yeah, hopefully the rookies can provide some much needed help. Jalen Brunson was struggling a little bit. Dwight Powell was struggling to like get any lift. So I mean, hopefully because otherwise he's going to be pretty useless as his current position if he's unable to get any lift and for the alley-oops. And just overall, he's been like really shaky in general. I almost feel that they should start Willie Cauley-Stein in place of him because Willie Cauley-Stein is at least relatively more healthy, and I don't know, he does the same role as Dwight Powell, but at this point I think he would be better suited because he's a little bit more mobile, I mean, granted, he still has to get used to the scheme of things because he didn't really play in the bubble. But I think it would be a better choice to start him at center for now up until KP comes back. And again, that's another thing. The Mavericks didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. So I guess we can't be too harsh, but at the same time, considering Luka's, the gravity of Luka, you would have expected at least pull out some sort of win here. I mean, not to say that the Phoenix Suns aren't a bad team. They're going to be a very good team this year. But I mean they should have won this game considering that DeAndre Ayton was in foul trouble. Like, you got to capitalize on that. And they just weren't capitalizing on a lot of things. Overall, like I guess I'm not going to talk about every single player because that would be too much time. Just overall in general, the overall movement, the ball movement just was they were so slow, and they just couldn't get any open shots because, I mean, part of it was Luka holding onto the ball too long and not trying to make any passes. So the ball was just kind of stuck in a certain spot, and there needs to be more movement. And granted, that's partially Luka, but that's a lot of Rick as well. And I know a lot of people are going to say, I don't know why everybody hates on Rick, blah, blah, blah. But see, this is the problem. We are so accustomed to having Rick here that he can do no wrong now. And that's the thing. Rick has had a lot of offensive schemes that just are questionable at best. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, especially in that first half, I was beside myself because, like, what the fuck are they even trying to do? They just keep forcing things. They're sloppy, making bad passes. Like, when they did make passes, they were bad. When they weren't, they were just so stagnant. There was no movement. And Rick has to do something. I mean, granted, again, it is the beginning of the season, so maybe he's weighing some stuff out. But at the same time, it's not a good look. Like, you have a guy who's supposedly an MVP caliber player, and you're not making the pieces work with him or around him. And of course, like, another thing I tend to see is, like, the players tend to, like, go back and let Luka get all this space, but you have to move to help him. Like, get open, do something, run a play. But I just don't see much movement at all. And that's going to be an issue if this continues. Yeah, that's pretty much it on, like, the offensive end. It's just bad shot selection. Luka mainly not playing up to par with what he needs to, although he did play better in the second half. Just overall stagnant ball movement. And that has to change if this Mavericks team is going to be successful. And again, I get it. They don't have KP. But even then, you should have, you have decent pieces now to where you can run something. But I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much stock in what they currently have. I know Dwight Powell isn't as good as a lot of people think he is, and the advanced stats are helpful in a lot of ways, but they're not always accurate in the sense that you have a guy like when Dwight Powell wasn't starting and he was getting some decent numbers. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's such a good player." And it's like because he's not playing that many minutes. And look what they did when they gave him minutes. He wasn't playing well. I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully that turns around for Powell. But I have a feeling that they should probably start Willie Cauley-Stein for the time being. And Maxi Kleba was a lot of people are wanting him to be traded, and I was on that bandwagon last year. But this year, I don't know. I don't believe they should trade Maxi Kleba unless they get somebody that's really like a really good player. Then yeah, maybe. But right now, I think Maxi's good for what we have. Maxi was making his 3-pointers. He was doing pretty well defensively. So I don't know. I think he's still a very solid role player. So I wouldn't get rid of him. But yeah, like Trey Burke, that's another player. He was playing really, really well. I'm really glad we signed him. Like I was hoping they would, and they did. So I'm glad we have Trey Burke still. Of course, with like Boban Marjanovic, like they're not really going to play him that much because of his situation is that he's very tall, and sometimes being that tall, you're not as mobile. So I don't know. Maybe they'll utilize him for Denver, like against Jokic or some bigger players, like even Anthony Davis. But the thing is, they should probably play him more minutes in those games, not just like spurts here and there, especially like just to keep somebody at bay. I don't know. Maybe he becomes a clog in the lane. Again, these are hypotheticals, but I think something to help improve the defensive end, at least in the paint, when you have bigger guys facing you. I mean, they did pretty well against DeAndre Ayton, but DeAndre Ayton was getting into foul trouble. And here's the thing: like the game was still very close. Part of it was defense on the Mavs' part, but a good amount of it, just to be honest, was just the fact that the Suns were struggling themselves. They were trying to get into the swing of things with Chris Paul and all that. So yeah, they took a hit themselves. But in the end, the Suns adjusted and came out on top. The Mavericks just didn't adjust at all, and again, there were just a lot of forced shots that didn't need to happen. And that happened last year. And it should not continue this year. I understand, like last year they were the highest rated offense in history. But even with that, they were still forcing shots near the end of games. Like I think there was some stat last year that they were ranked super high in like first half offense, but then second half they were just abysmal. Like, because again, they had potential last year to be even the 3rd seed. But they fell to 7th because of costly mistakes, bad shot selection, and just bad rotations. And I'm sorry, that is a lot on Carlisle. And hopefully Rick sees that for what it is and adjusts accordingly, because otherwise they're not going to succeed. And that's the thing that scares me. I have faith they're going to be okay, but I felt that they were going to be even better last year, and they underperformed. At least to me. I mean, in the playoffs they did really well. They really kept up with the Clippers, but overall, I just don't think that they were as good as they should have been. And I hope this year they can fix their mistakes. It is the first game, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on that out there. And I'm still very excited for what is to come for the rest of the season, because this team, I think the way it's constructed right now, is good enough to at least make the 3rd or 4th seed in the West. It should be good enough for that. And if they go below that, I think that's a little bit of an underperformance again. But then again, the West has always been really tough, and it did get a little tougher this season. So I don't know. But overall, it's one game. And yes, I was overly critical, but that's just how I am. I want to see the Mavericks win. I want them to succeed. I want them to do well. And there's just a lot of things they need to clean up. But I'm certain, and I have faith that they'll do that by the next game, in the next few games. And once KP comes back, I'm certain they'll be a good contending piece in this league. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Suscríbete a mi canal y hasta el próximo, mi gente. Adiós.